Meanwhile, the alleged bribery scandal known as Huawei-gate continues to rumble in the European Parliament as EU officials try to establish how lobbyists for the Chinese tech giant may have had access to lawmakers. Previously, Belgian authorities charged several people in connection with the bribery probe in the EU Parliament, allegedly linked to Huawei. Joining me on set is France 24's Europe editor Armin George. And Armin, great to see you. Just remind us of the facts of this case.
Yes, so the Belgian authorities are still investigating Delano. In the meantime, EU institutions have taken some measures. So they've suspended contacts with Huawei until further notice, and they're also reviewing the access that lobbyists have to actual EU premises. There's still a couple of loopholes, though, according to an MEP that I was talking to this morning about this. He was saying, firstly, there's the issue of visitors' passes to the European Parliament, which is still a bit of a grey area, and also indirect lobbying. So Huawei is an affiliate of various trade organizations in Brussels, and they are still obviously trying to have their interests taken into account by MEPs. That in itself is normal. Lobbying has always existed, so there's nothing illegal about such contacts as long as they're declared in the transparency register. The issue with Huawei, as always, Delano, is of course it's political. And we've seen just in the last few days lawmakers writing letters to the heads of the European Commission and the Parliament saying that they should look again at what sort of phone devices are allowed in EU institutions, because at the moment, if you go through security checks at the Commission or the Parliament, they don't check what sort of phone you have, so you can't sort of enforce a no Huawei device zone, but there are calls for that to change, so we'll have to see where that goes. But of course, this all goes back to those long-standing worries that Western governments have had for a long time about possible collusion between Huawei and the Chinese Communist Party. Huawei, of course, has always rejected that, but there are these persistent worries about national security, not just in Brussels, by the way, but London, Washington, D.C., other Western countries.
Armin, 2 years ago, we had some reforms put into place after the Qatar-gate scandal in Europe. What's really changed?
There was a kind of push just after Qatar-gate to have MEPs register their meetings in this transparency register, and my contact in the European Parliament told me that that was actually pretty successful. Initially, there were a lot of log entries detailing meetings, so that was actually good for transparency. But he was saying to me that recently that momentum has basically run out. It's not happening anymore, or not nearly as much. And the big thing that was supposed to happen after Qatar-gate, after that lobbying scandal, was this independent ethics body that was supposed to see the light of day. That's been largely blocked. You wouldn't know that it's been blocked until it actually took a new scandal, right? So it took this Huawei-gate scandal to draw attention to the fact that this ethics body hasn't actually been put in place. Conservatives say, well, it would simply add more red tape and bureaucracy at a time when we're trying to reduce that. We don't want more paper, filling out paper forms. We want MEPs to actually do their jobs, just as we want, small businesses to go about their business without constant administrative burdens. The left says that the right is basically stalling, that they don't want genuine transparency, that they don't want genuine regulation of lobbying when it comes to lobbying. The right would say, well, there's a double standard. They would say, well, lobbying is sort of considered to be bad if it's somehow in some way associated with the political right, but it's fine if it's associated with the political left. So, for example, there were all these environmental NGOs lobbying for net zero and so forth, and the right will call out that sort of thing and say, well, why isn't there a big uproar about that, but there's an uproar about other kinds of lobbying. So lobbying is a very, very political, of course, Delano.